Welcome to Strip Cover Lit, where we squeeze the bigger picture out of literature. I'm Adrian Ford, and we are here for another poetry discussion. A poetry discussion which will happen in two separate playlists here on the channel. Number one, obviously, the poetry discussion playlist, but number two, the read-along, poem by poem read-along for Sylvia Plath, The Collected Poems. This is the 17th in that series, 17th of 274 poems. Now, I must start this again with a disclaimer that I am not a Sylvia Plath expert, that we are here to read these poems and discuss them with each other, that I am not here to lecture because there's not a whole lot anywhere about some of these poems, and Sylvia Plath is someone with whom I have always struggled. I have always struggled with her poetry to find some connection with it, and this poem, I think I've got some root in, but I don't know for sure because I am not a great big fan of biographical criticism, but I have to kind of latch on to biography here in order to try to make something of this poem. The poem in question is Letter to a Purist, and it reads as such. That grandiose colossus who stood astride the envious assaults of sea, essaying wave by wave, tide by tide, to undo him perpetually, has nothing on you, O my love, O my great idiot, who, with one foot caught, as it were, in the muck trap of skin and bone, dithers with the other way out in preposterous provinces of madcap, cloud cuckoo, a gawp at the impeccable moon. Now, again, not a great big fan of biographical criticism. Sometimes I think it's useful. Sometimes I think that it's a place that we go almost instinctively because it is a place with which we might get some grasp of the real tangible part of the poem. Sometimes it's easier to graft a message from the metaphor onto the author's real life and then pry away some meaning for ourselves from that, as opposed to reinterpreting the metaphor into our own life. But here, one of the biographical things that we know about Sylvia Plath is that Ted Hughes left her for another woman. I think that's what's going on here. We have Ted Hughes, who was a great big influence on Sylvia Plath. So when we begin this poem with an allusion to the grandiose colossus, okay, yeah, we can do that because Ted Hughes, the husband, we don't have to have the name there even. We have to, all we're really doing with the biographical part is coming up with some story out of which this metaphor might make sense. The grandiose colossus, Ted Hughes in her life, her husband, great big influence on her, who stood astride the envious assaults of sea. This was one of the 7 wonders of the world. Grandiose, big, wonder. He stood there, the Colossus, a foot astride the sea. All of these things going on between his legs. Essaying wave by wave, tide by tide. Now, that Colossus was doing no essay writing. Perhaps Ted Hughes was. To undo him perpetually. Now, the tides which would undo the Colossus were the tides of earthquake, right? It was the natural world that undid the Colossus. It is what's going on between his legs that Sylvia Plath, our speaker here, I should say, is saying this grandiose colossus too will be undone. But our speaker says that colossus has nothing on you. Oh, my love. Oh, my great idiot. That is not a term of endearment, is it? Idiot, great idiot. Because you, set up as Colossus, have 1 foot caught. You might catch someone with another woman, mightn't you? You might catch your lover with someone else, 1 foot caught, as it were, in the muck trap of skin and bone. Dithers with the other way out in preposterous provinces of the madcap cloud cuckoo, a gawp at the impeccable moon. This, a gawp at the impeccable moon. I think this is a shot at Ted Hughes, the writer, the poet. This is, what poet does not have a poem about the moon? So I think that this final line is a shot at the intellectual capacity, once again, of Ted Hughes, or whoever this poem is about. I am making it a run at that interpretation. Where am I here? So we have a gawp at the impeccable moon. That is something that might be done by an idiot. Oh gosh, look at that moon, right? That type of thing. So, okay, that's a fairly straightforward interpretation there. Not a whole lot, I think, not a whole lot maybe to contend with until we get back up to this. Letter to a Purist. I think this is probably not just. So, our speaker here has proven that they are not afraid to go ahead and talk real bad about someone, not afraid to throw around the insults. So, why use irony here? It would strike me, if I were to play the part of lawyer, it would strike me here that the reason one would all of a sudden put irony or sarcasm into the title when one is certainly not afraid to throw around blatant insults, one might put sarcasm into the title there if that great colossus in their life had maybe had some type of talk with them about purity. What if the accused here, Ted Hughes perhaps, maybe, I think it's a pretty good bet whenever we're reading Sylvia Plath and some term of anti-endearment comes up that we might go ahead and assume it was levied at Ted Hughes. If that individual had had a discussion with our speaker, perhaps our author, about purity in oneself, saying, hey, you want to be pure for me, don't you? And then went ahead and left for another woman. That, I think, is the final punch of this poem. But, like I said, I am not the Sylvia Plath expert. I am struggling through this and trying day by day to get these poems. That is all I have for this poetry discussion. If you like or appreciate what it is that I do here on the channel, hitting the like button really does help me out, as it tells YouTube to share this video with other literature lovers, and if you find yourself here by chance but not design. Literature is the only thing that I talk about on this channel. Dropping multiple videos a week. There's poetry every Monday. We are currently having a read-through of not only Sylvia Plath, but also Stephen King's latest book, Holly, but also the Fincavigia edition by Ernest Hemingway, all of his short stories, but also Dubliners by James Joyce, and I hope to have you back for the next video.